This is ntgreek.net, Course 1, Lesson 6. We're going to go over the homework for Lesson 6. Let's take a look at the vocabulary on pages 55 and 56 of your textbook, and let's just walk through the vocabulary quickly. We have the pronoun autas, and of course the feminine and neuter forms, aute and auta. We've talked about the three uses of autas. Remember, basically it's just this. When it's in the attributive position, it means same. It's an adjective meaning same. It will agree with the noun that it modifies in number, case, and gender. If it's not in the attributive position and it is in the nominative case, very often it is functioning as an intensifier of the subject of the verb in the clause. And it will agree in number and gender with the noun that it modifies. Most often in the New Testament, when it functions this way, it is in the nominative case. The third function, when it's not in the attributive position and when it is not in the nominative case, then it is functioning as a third person pronoun. Now, we mentioned that there are cases where it is an intensifier even though it is not in the nominative case. We're not going to worry about those circumstances in this course. We come down on page 55 to the next word in our vocabulary, ego. Ego is, of course, if you spell it in English letters, it's ego. It is the pronoun I. It is the first person pronoun. The next word is has, and the feminine form he and ha. We're going to reserve discussion of those for lesson 7, so you can ignore those pronouns for now. The next one is su. This is the second person pronoun. It means you. Now we have some nouns in 7.1.2. Daimonian is the word for demon. What you need to notice for this word is that it is neuter. That is indicated by the ta, the definite article given along with daimonian is given in the neuter form. Dikaiosune is the word for righteousness, and it is feminine. First declension noun, dikaiosune. Doulos is the word for slave. Doron is the word for gift. Again, notice ta, the neuter definite article, indicating that doron is neuter. Eirene, a feminine first declension noun, it means peace. He gives you the example Irenic. Think of the name Irene, which is from this word and means peace. Ecclesia. This word, I really want you to associate the English word assembly with the Greek word ecclesia. Ecclesia was a word that was used in the first century, often in contexts having to do with a town meeting of some sort, an assembly of the townspeople. Exousia is a word that can be translated power, liberty, or right. Exousia. Laos, a word for people. If you have an older edition of this textbook, if you have the first edition of this textbook, there are some real problems in the textbook. The author seemed to have trouble with this noun. It's a collective noun, so the singular, laos, refers to more than one person. If you want to talk about peoples, plural, that is different groups of people, maybe, for example, the peoples of Asia, where you have different ethnic groups within the larger category of Asia, so we're saying peoples, then you would use the plural form of this word. Aklas is the word for crowd. Semein is the word for sign. And hora is the word for hour. Of course, that's one that'll be easy to remember because if you spell it, it's O-R-A, and you can think of horoscope. He gives horoscope here as an example. Not too different, really, from our word hour. We have a U in our word for hour, and of course our H is silent, whereas they don't write an H, but they pronounce the H because of the breathing mark. Hora. Conjunctions, we have gar, de, and un, and you'll remember all of these are post-positive. And then we have the particles nigh, which means yes, u, which means no or not, has two variations. It's spelled ook with a kappa when it comes before a word beginning with a vowel where there is a smooth breathing mark, and it is ook with a ki when it comes before a word that begins with a vowel where there is a rough breathing mark. Then you have ude. Well, u, the word for not, and de, the word for and or but, combine to form this word ude, which can mean and not. Often you may see ude used in pairs. So you'll have ude, dot, 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 ude, dot, dot, dot. And in those instances, you can translate neither this nor that. All right, let's go to the homework. You were asked to translate numbers 1, 2, 6, and 7 from your textbook in Part A on page 62 and 63. Let's take a look at those. On page 62 in Part A, number 1 says, Hemes uk huresamin autan. Let's just stop there because we have a punctuation mark. Let's notice the punctuation mark looks like a semicolon, and that is the mark that is used to indicate a question mark. So we have a question here. Hemes is the nominative plural first person pronoun. Hemes means we. Uk is not. Huresamin is the first person plural future active indicative of heurisco. It means we will find. And autan is the third person pronoun in the accusative case. Because it's in the accusative case, we expect it to be the object of our verb. Hemes being nominative, we expect it to be the subject, and that works because huresamin is a first person plural verb, and hemes is a first person plural pronoun. So what does this say? Well, it says, will we not find him? We might start out translating, we will not find him, but then we remember it's a question. Will we not find him? Nigh, in the next clause, is the word for yes. And then akuamen tus lagus autou kai pistuamen autois is if we hear the words of him and believe them. Pistuamen is first person plural. We could repeat the we in English, and if we believe them, or and we believe them, or you don't have to repeat it. All right, let's take a look at somebody's work here. And let's see, I need to share this application, so let me do that. And you'll be able to see the work here, right there. All right, so here is one student's homework, and we will not find him. That's pretty good there, except that we need to acknowledge this is a question, and so let's say, will we not find him? And then, yes, if we hear his words themselves and believe them. All right, this student has themselves here, and that's because the student was looking at the sentence and saw the word autou and decided to translate it intensively. But remember our flow chart of decision making here. First we ask, is it attributive? No. In this case, the pronoun autou is not attributive. Then we say, is it nominative? If it's nominative, chances are we need to translate it as an intensifier. But here, autou is in the genitive case. It is not nominative. It is not an intensifier. It is simply a third-person pronoun. And because it's genitive, it means of him. So yes, if we hear his words, you know what? This student actually did it both ways. This student said his words, which is an acknowledgement of the genitive autou, and then also translated the autou as an intensifier. One or the other. It won't be both. So we can omit the themselves. Yes, if we hear his words and believe them. All right, number 2. Kurie sue hahuias tu theu. Su hadikase tu Israel. So we have Kuria, Lord, in the vocative case. Then we have, you are the Son of God. You are, and the verb are comes a little later in the sentence, but in English we'll put it second in our clause. You are the righteous one. Dikaios functions attributively here, but it is a substantive. There is an implied noun. Hadikaios, the righteous one. In English, in this instance, we really need to supply the word one, because in English, if we said simply, you are the righteous without an explicit noun sounds like we're talking about plural, a plurality, a righteous group of people, the righteous people. And in Greek, of course, dikaios is singular, so we need to supply the word one in order to indicate that singularity. You are the righteous one of Israel. Now, in Greek, we have two Israel. We have a definite article before Israel. Why don't we translate that? In Greek, the definite article is often used with proper nouns, like a personal name. For example, Jesus, the word for Jesus. Oftentimes it'll be preceded by a definite article in Greek, the Jesus said, so forth and so on. In English, we don't do that. What is the function of a definite article? The function of a definite article is to specify and indicate particularity. But in English, we suppose that if I give a proper name, if I say Jesus said, we suppose that's definite enough to indicate particularity, and so we don't use a definite article. So what I'm telling you is that whereas I have told you I want you to retain the definite article in English when you see it in Greek, now I'm giving you an exception. When you see a definite article with a proper noun in Greek, when you bring that over into English, you do not need to retain the definite article. We feel like in English we don't need that definite article to indicate specificity. So let's see, what do we have here in the homework that we're looking at? One student translated this, Lord, if you are the Son of God, you are the righteous one of Israel. Well, there's a couple of things here. In the text, in our textbook, the Greek has kuriasu e ha huios, and that a has a breathing mark, a smooth breathing mark, and a circumflex accent. If it had been spelled without the circumflex accent, it would have been the word if. I don't think you have learned the word if yet. I don't remember for sure whether you have or not. But in any event, here it is not the word if because it has the circumflex accent. It is the verb, the copulative, the second person singular of to be. It is are, you are. So, Lord, you are the Son of God. Again, in Greek, theou is articular, but here theou is being used as a proper noun. It's functioning as a proper noun. When we bring it over into English, we do not need to retain the proper noun. We don't need to retain the definite article, rather. So, Lord, you are the Son of God. Then we have a punctuation mark in the textbook. We have a dot above the line, which serves as a colon or a semicolon. Then we have the rest of the Greek, you are the righteous one of Israel. Our student here said you are the righteous one of Israel, which is correct. So really the only issue here is this needed to be broken into two independent clauses because of the punctuation mark. And in the first clause, there is no word for if, there is a word for you are. All right, number 6 in the textbook. Hakasmus uk anoidze tahira autou, hadelas tutheu anoidzusin tas cardias auto. Says, the world will not open the temples of him. That is, the world will not open his temples. But the people of God will open the hearts of them. That is, the people of God will open their hearts. Let's look at our students' homework here for number 6. It says the universe That's fine for cosmos. If you want to translate that universe, that's fine. Although people are generally located here on Earth rather than throughout the universe, so you could say simply the world. And we're talking about, of course, the people of the world here. Cosmos stands for the people in the world. We're not talking about the trees and the rocks opening their hearts. Hakosmos uk anoigze, the world will not open. Let's see how our student did that. That's right. But then our student has itself. Number 6 in our textbook is Hakosmos uk anoigze tahira autu. So we have tahira autu, and we need to work on that. Tahira is the temples, neuter, plural. Could be accusative, could be nominative, just based on the form tahira. However, here we already have a nominative cosmos, so that's our subject. Therefore, we're going to conclude that tahira is accusative and is the direct object of anoigze. So the world will not open the temples. And then autu is genitive. It is not nominative. It's not used as an intensifier here. It's a third person pronoun. The temples of him. The world will not open the temples of him. Or we could say, the world will not open his temples. And then after the comma, how did we do? But the people of God will open their hearts. But the people of God will open their hearts. That's fine. I think we have a little extraneous S at the end of the verb open, but that's fine. That looks like a typo. And then number 7 in the textbook. Number 7 in the textbook. Ugar esten he basilea tu theu hamartia, ala dikai sunai kai erene kai exousia tu theu. For the kingdom of God is not sin, but righteousness and peace and power of God. How did we do? The kingdom of God is not sin, but righteousness and peace and power of God. That looks just great. All right. Next, we're going to look at the exercises that are online, and that will be in part 2 of this video. So we'll stop recording right here.